The most attractant there is in Bragg Creek. I got grease, I got food, I got freezers full of food all locked up. I got all my garbages in the locked bins that Fish and Wildlife gave me. I did everything I could, and I have faced that big sow that got hit on the highway 5 times. And fortunately it was this face. But there was a time when I was prepping inside the kitchen and the bear came right in and grabbed a loaf of bread from the outside. So my door was open. So I heard this noise and I walked over to the door and the bear ran out, hit the door, and it hit me back. So I was within that far of a bear looking for food to feed its cubs. So now the bear is gone. We got 5 cubs that are orphaned. Okay, the way I'm looking at it, if you got a bad buffalo berry season, you got 2 young cubs. As far as I'm concerned, with all the other information that I've got, plus I was a tree planter in the 90s. So I planted 3.4 million trees in the 90s, from Cardston all the way to Red Earth. I know all about dump bears. I know all about all the bears and tree planters and up in the high country and all that stuff. You guys have no other choice but to euthanize these cubs. And the biggest reason is would you rather have them die right now when they're healthy and young, or do you want these cubs to be out there in the middle of winter not knowing anything and die of starvation? Now that's a worse outcome, dying of starvation, than it is getting shot while you're healthy. And you have no other choice. If we have an incident here with these 5 cubs in Bragg Creek where they don't know what an 8-year-old boy is, they just know it's got a heartbeat. And all of a sudden they're filtering over here, mom and dad are out front watching a little bit of TV, the other son is downstairs on his computer. You guys, if you don't euthanize these cubs, you guys are asking for big problems. And the responsibility is you guys to decide what you want to do. Because you could phone Fish and Wildlife right now and say, yeah, as Bragg Creek citizens, we would like to have these cubs euthanized. So when we do get them spotted, boom, we phone Fish and Wildlife, they come in. As a matter of fact, I think there should be a policy, especially with our buffalo berry and the amount of habitat that's out there and the encroachment of other big bears, is that when that mother was euthanized, those cubs should have also been euthanized. Because what are you going to do? You're going to let a bunch of 5-year-old kids run into the forest and think that they can survive? There's just no way. And there's no way these cubs are gonna. This, you guys, this is heading in a bad direction. Because I hear the information, but then we have people, and I just gotta be careful because I'm a farm kid too. So I call them do-gooders. And I have 2 daughters that are do-gooders. And when I was down there, I had my gun there. The officer from Sutina said, listen, if you get a shot, take it. Just make sure it's safe. So I'm ready to go. I got a really big gun and it does lots of damage. So what ended up happening is my daughter, Kiara, came and she stayed in her camper van for 4 days while I was gonna shoot the bear. She said, Dad, let's just bear spray it. We'll have a bad experience and then it'll leave. And I said, Kiara, if I get a shot at this bear, it's down, period. I'm not gonna walk around my truck at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm adding fuel to my fire and face a 500-pound bear that I startled that's looking for food for its babies. It's trouble. So what ended up happening is the bear got hit. Now you got these orphan cubs. I know there was an ambulance. I know there was emergency vehicles. Somebody got hurt. And I feel a little bit guilty because had I taken the extra time, that accident wouldn't have happened.
Okay, so I want to start by thanking you for all that you are doing to help us. Because if you are having these bear-proof bins, and you've talked to Fish and Wildlife about bear-proofing your property, that is amazing. And so thank you very much.
Put everything away.
Yeah,
it all
it's
up.
incredible.
It all goes into garbages. It all gets locked up.
Yeah,
the
and
best we can.
And that's a lot. So I don't think when you say that you think you're the biggest attractant, I disagree. Because you're doing your best to manage
One of
your
the
property.
biggest attractants. How's that?
Whatever. You're managing your property to the best of your ability, and I think that
But I
if
got
we all
grease.
did that, we would have a different conversation. you that at the end of the day, bears are bears, and they are bigger and meaner and stronger and tougher, and they have long claws and sharp teeth. And no matter what we do to coexist, there are always going to be conflict situations. I'm not so idealistic that I think we live in some kind of utopia where we can never get to a point where bears and people never conflict. We will. But the idea is that those conflict incidents become less, and that when a bear is destroyed, we can have a bit more confidence in truly believing that that was the only option available at the time.
Thank
So
you.
that's a little different though, right? Because it's not. I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think that we've done everything that we possibly can do as a community.
I can't see any of you.
No,
Got
but
no
that's you.
buffalo
That bear
bears.
isn't just living in your yard. That
I-
bear is
I told it-
accessing
I live-
attractions all over, right?
I'm from Lethbridge. I don't even live here. I live in a tent out the back porch. But which even puts me at a higher risk, because now I have this issue where the bears muddle around on my tent or whatever. I'm not worried about that. I'll take care of that when it comes. But at the end of the day, if you guys let these bears starve to death this winter instead of euthanizing them with the information that you guys have, I'm going to hold you guys responsible. And
Well, that's
if
not
those,
fair. It's not our decision.
no, it is your.
Can I
You
just
guys are the
interrupt?
scientists.
Can I just interrupt you? Like, you've made such a point, and I've definitely heard it, and I'd like to hear from the county.
So the issue here, in my view, it's difficult for us, certainly difficult for me, to imagine what's going on. Because we're shaking. So it's hard for me to think of bears and their cubs. And I understand, those are offspring, but I'm not going to compare them to my kids.
Oh,
So,
of course not. That,
wait.
that
So wait.
wasn't even hypothetical.
Yeah, hear me out. So I think the issue here is we don't know. I mean, one of the things was that there's not a lot of information. We really don't know. In my opinion, the best thing to do is right now, since we can't increase the probability with the current legal situation, we can't increase the probability of those bears making it through a winter by capturing them and putting them in a controlled environment and trying to rehabilitate them. So the best thing to do is let nature take its course. If those bears, if those bears do come back, their territory does appear to be from right where we're sitting, through Elcano, and up onto Tupon and north of Tupon. So that is their territory. If we just shot them, they would have zero chance. But there is some chance, even AEP says that there's a chance that they can hibernate together and make it through the winter. So for me, I want to give them that chance. I don't want to take that chance away from them. And if they are habituated, and we've actually had sightings since then, and they have not been problems. So if they are habituated and they walk on to somebody's property, you can bet Fish and Wildlife will be here and those bears will be shot. So I want to give them at least some chance.
I'm good with that. That's smart. But I'm just saying that if it comes down to it, there should be, and there is some issues and some conflict, then we've got to take care of it. But to leave a shot bear, mama bear like that, I think is horrible to not take the cubs out. Even though you're saying there's a chance, it's just that in this situation where there's so many people, there's so much going on. So if they disappear into the forest and we never see them again, great. That's super. That's giving them their best chance. But if they start coming into the town site, we can't be protecting these bears that could cause some serious problems. Now another
Do you
thing too.
mind if we just move on? We're
Yeah,
losing
sorry.
the light, so I think we're just going to move on to Melissa, just to wrap things up.
I'm the biggest attractant to humans and to bears.
Like I said, it's not about, we can never get to a point where we draw a circle around our community and say people in
matter of fact, if you wanted to get rid of somebody, that's the perfect place. And I'm a pig farmer. I'm a pig farmer too, so, and I'm an arborist. So I have a wood chipper. So I got all of it. But listen, you guys, I drove all the way from Lethbridge because I felt compelled to come up here.
Thank you.
I drove back from Bragg Creek last night after a really tough, mean weekend. Successful, but tough, mean weekend. But I have one more thing to just say quickly here, you guys. I do this thing on YouTube called Tree V. So it's Tree V-E-E. And I'm wearing a cowboy hat. Go to it because it's Brian, right? Dave. Okay, Dave. In this 63 videos that I put together, that I spent an enormous amount of money putting together, we have catastrophic wildfire coming. And the bear problem is going to be nothing compared to this dragon. Now, if you go to YouTube, or pardon me, if you go to Google Earth, you guys go to Google Earth and go to the satellite image of Bragg Creek. From Bragg Creek, you'll see 13,000 hectares of old growth forest. And it looks like the head of a dragon, okay? So if you go to Google Earth, go to satellite, go to Bragg Creek, you'll see the head of a dragon. Now, if we don't get control of our fuels in our forests, and if you go over that levee here, there's 500 trees down over there. This place will be completely incinerated, including the bears and all the humans. And if we don't raise the skirts on these trees, and we don't brush and weed and thin and space and deadwood these forests and control these fuels, we will lose everything. And don't worry about the bears, because we're all going to end up in a hockey arena in Medicine Hat somewhere, wondering where our families are. This.
Can I just interrupt you? This is like something we talk about right all the time.
Okay, well,
And it's not-
I'm headed
it's
back to
not-
Lethbridge.
Drive
Thank you
safe,
very
mate.
much, you guys. Tree V, you guys, check it out, because we have to start doing something, and we have to start doing something now about catastrophic wildfire. It took the government 10 years to, and they're just finish.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go shooting any bears.
I won't.
Yeah.
All right. I won't go shooting any bear.
Thank you.
Actually, what happened was I had an elder from Sutina ask me not to. So I respected that. It was Reggie
Thank you.
One Spot. And I says, okay, Reggie, no problem. But if it would have been a worse threat, I would have had to have no other choice. But I said no because of Reggie One Spot.